All right, let's continue to talk about Serbia because Serbia continues to get timeouts from the European Union. They are not happy with Serbia's behavior because they refuse to sanction Russia, and they may find themselves with sanctions of their own. The threats from the EU have been veiled. Some of them, though, are not so veiled. One group is saying Serbia should not continue accession talks for EU membership, meaning they need to be spanked and sent to the corner. They should not be allowed to continue their application for membership while they refuse to do what their buddies in the European Union are doing. Now, here is that group, the Socialist and Democrats group. They say the EU cannot continue accession talks with Serbia if they don't align with EU sanctions against Russia. We've talked about many times that why they refuse to do this. This is what we will say in the Parliament's upcoming enlargement report at TP Icula or TPicula. Very disappointing coming from a country aspiring to join the EU. It's like a verbal condescension.
So you need to put on sanctions against Russia because look how well Europe is doing right now. I mean, the United Kingdom is literally slipping into a third world economy right now. You're watching the collapse of the British pound. You're watching children in the UK. We had it in the newsletter this morning, resulting to eating pencil erasers because they're hungry. Literally, children not having enough food in the UK. We're watching German protests. We're watching people in Prague taking to the streets saying enough is enough. Down with NATO, down with the EU. Put our people first. We saw an election in Italy reflecting that. And so what they're saying is, Serbia, if you want to join us, you need to do the same shit that they're doing, which is driving them into the ground.
Now, most voters in Serbia don't necessarily want to align themselves with NATO. They don't feel like this is a priority, although if you are Serbian President Vučić, you realize it's not as easy as putting up a middle finger and saying, no, we don't really care then. We'll just go off on our merry way because they are so interconnected with Europe in terms of business and citizenships. They have a lot of sort of dual passports. They want to get along, but the EU continues to drag them out and kind of stone them in public for what it thinks is not speaking up the company line. Earlier this week, the US and the EU ramped up pressure on Serbia for signing a collaboration agreement with Russia. In fact, the US ambassador to Serbia said no one should be signing anything with Russia, period. All they really signed was a diplomatic schedule, as in, like, we are going to continue to talk to each other and come up with things that are mutually beneficial. But, you know, Serbia is really doing a dance here. They recently rejected, they said that they will reject the referendum in Ukraine. They will not consider this area annexed and part of Russia. In fact, Serbian President Vučić spoke last week at the United Nations and said, we are protecting our own territorial integrity. It's in our best interest to do that. Now, he said, but he did say, so it's funny because the Western media is telling you, even though Serbia is a friend of Russia, they do not support the annexation of this territory. At least they're, you know, see, even Russia's friends doesn't support this. Right. But Vučić continued to say that, you know, all of this politicking is not saving lives. He says that what's going on in all of these like diplomatic talks and grandstanding is impotent and vague. Listen.
Everything we are doing here today seems at least relatively impotent and vague. Our words make hollow and empty echo comparing to the reality we are facing. And that reality is such that no one is listening to anyone here. No one strives towards real agreements and to resolving problems. And almost everyone takes care only of their own interests, breaching often along the way the basic principles of international law.
Now, he goes on to speak about peace talks and the stability of food supplies during war. And he says, I just want to ask this question. I'm curious. When we talk about territorial integrity, right, the Western world does not want any part of Ukraine being sanctioned off or partitioned off to be something else. They care a lot about territorial integrity, but not for Serbia, because Western leaders consider Kosovo independent. So he has this question to say.
We ask for a clear answer to the question, I've been asking my interlocutors, leaders of many countries for years, what is the difference between the sovereignty and territorial integrity of Ukraine and sovereignty and territorial integrity of Serbia, which was grossly violated and for which you provided international recognition and legitimacy, at least some of you. Nobody has ever provided a rational answer to this question.
Yeah, great question. And I saw, a lot of Serbians were saying, what a great speech. Like literally standing there calling them out for this hypocrisy.
Yeah. Because we don't have interests in your region.
Right.
That's really the only answer. It's money, sort of bargaining chips. It's not there for us at this moment. That's the real answer to why Western powers have a double standard for Serbia versus Ukraine. Now, he says he has not forgotten how NATO invaded his country. Listen.
Let me remind you, Serbia has not stepped its foot on someone else's territory. Never, ever. Nor has it endangered territorial integrity of a single sovereign state, so that anyone might intervene or carry out aggression against it, the way it was done against Serbia in 1999. Nevertheless, as I said, it did not prevent 19 richest NATO countries from attacking a sovereign country without a decision by the United Nations Security Council.
Yeah, an illegal attack that killed thousands of people, innocent people in Serbia, destroyed infrastructure. I mean, you can walk through the streets of Belgrade today, see the infrastructure still damaged, hitting the Chinese embassy, striking the Chinese embassy. Oh, it was a mistake. We thought it was a different, we're sorry about that. We're sorry. Yes,
but even so, he is calling for peace talks. He says he has a beautiful line about peace talks, and I'm going to let him say it rather than paraphrase.
It is better to negotiate for 100 years than to wage war for a single day. I hope that we will reach mutually acceptable solution based on compromise, because this is the absolutely only way for reaching our goal.
It is better to have peace talks for 100 years than a single day of war. I don't think we are going to get that choice.
No.
Western leaders do not seem to have the appetite for this. And Russia last week said in President Putin's address, we have continued to ask for peace talks. So with whatever power we have as just ordinary citizens, we should be demanding our leaders show up for that.